When we think of scientific giants, names like Newton and Einstein come to mind. But Marie Curie stands just as tall, a woman who broke barriers and changed the world. In an era when women were shut out of science, Curie's intellect forced open the gates. Her discoveries, polonium and radium, revolutionized our understanding of matter and energy. Imagine a world without X-rays or cancer treatments. That was before Curie's work with radioactivity unlocked the atom's secrets. Her journey was one of hardship and sacrifice. Working in a cold shed, handling dangerous materials, and facing prejudice at every turn. Yet her passion and determination lit up the world, proving that one person's courage can change history. This is the story of Marie Curie, the woman who truly lit up the world. Marie Curie's life was defined by two forces, science and sacrifice. Science was her calling, a quest for truth that she pursued relentlessly, believing it could better humanity. But every breakthrough came at a cost: poverty, exhaustion, and ultimately, her health. She and Pierre Curie refused to patent their discoveries, giving their knowledge freely to the world. She worked tirelessly, often at the expense of her own well-being, unaware that the glowing radium she studied was slowly poisoning her. Curie's life mirrored a world in upheaval, caught between old traditions and a new scientific age. Her greatest gift to humanity demanded the ultimate sacrifice. Marie Curie remains the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different sciences, physics and chemistry. Her work shattered old ideas about the atom, launching the nuclear age and transforming medicine. She faced relentless skepticism and scandal, but her passion never dimmed. The fire of radioactivity she discovered brought both hope and danger to the world. During World War I, she brought X-rays to the battlefield, saving countless lives. Curie's legacy is one of discovery, resilience, and compassion, a fire that still burns today. Born Maria Sklodowska in Russian-occupied Warsaw, Curie grew up in a family of educators who valued learning as quiet rebellion. Tragedy struck early. She lost her sister and mother, shaping her into a determined, introspective young woman. Despite excelling in school, she was barred from university because she was a girl. But the spark of curiosity her father ignited would not be extinguished. Her journey was just beginning. Denied higher education in Poland, Mania worked as a governess, using every spare moment to teach herself science and mathematics. She found solace in books, and eventually, hands-on experience in a secret Warsaw laboratory. This self-driven study forged her independence and deepened her resolve. Isolated in the countryside, she wrote of her intellectual hunger and her dream of a better future for Poland. For Curie, learning was both a personal passion and a patriotic duty. Her hunger for knowledge was unstoppable. In defiance of Russian rule, Warsaw's floating university offered secret classes to those barred from official education. Mania and her sister Bronislawa risked everything to study science and mathematics in this underground network. The experience taught her that knowledge was worth fighting for, and that true education could be an act of rebellion. But to fulfill her scientific dreams, she needed a real university degree. Together, the sisters made a pact that would change their lives forever. The plan was audacious. It was born out of a deep, unwavering love between two sisters. Bronislawa would go to Paris first to study medicine. Mania would stay behind in Poland and work as a governess, sending money to Bronislawa. Once Bronislawa finished, she would support Mania's studies at the Sorbonne. It was a long-term pact requiring years of sacrifice. She took a position as a governess in a small village. In her spare time, she continued her own secret education. She read voraciously and studied mathematics. For 5 long years, Mania toiled and saved, faithfully sending money to her sister. Finally, the day came. She could come to Paris, they could support her. Maria Sklodowska packed a small suitcase. She began the long journey from Poland to France, towards the Sorbonne, and towards her destiny. In 1891, Maria Sklodowska arrived in Paris, the cultural and scientific epicenter of the world. Enrolling at the Sorbonne, now using the name Marie, it felt like a different reality. She was at the heart of higher learning. Marie moved into a small attic room in the Latin Quarter, closer to the university. This meant extreme poverty, a tiny, unheated space. Despite the deprivation, this period was one of profound intellectual liberation. Her mind was her kingdom, and science was her sole subject. This Spartan existence stripped away all distractions, leaving only the pursuit of knowledge. She was driven by a hunger that no amount of physical discomfort could diminish. Her spirit soared. Life at the Sorbonne was challenging for Marie, one of few women in the science faculty. She spent every waking hour catching up, fueled by determination. Evenings were spent in her small garret, poring over notes by the dim light. Her professors noticed her dedication and extraordinary work ethic. In 1893, Marie placed first in her master's degree examinations in physics. The following year, she passed the mathematics examinations, graduating second in her class. Marie secured a commission from the Society for the Encouragement of National Industry to study steel's magnetic properties. Her garret was inadequate for the precise measurements needed. The search for a lab would lead to a fateful meeting, changing her life and the future of science. In 1894, Marie was searching for a laboratory to conduct her research. A professor introduced her to Pierre Curie, head of the laboratory at the Municipal School of Industrial Physics and Chemistry. The meeting was simple, yet charged with intellectual energy. They spoke about her research, and Marie was struck by Pierre's intelligence. Pierre, in turn, was captivated by Marie's deep understanding of science and passion for research. Pierre found a small space for Marie to work in his laboratory. Their professional collaboration soon blossomed into a deep, personal connection. A scientific collaboration was beginning to look a lot like a lifelong partnership. Marie was hesitant about Pierre's marriage proposals. Her goal was to return to Poland. After spending the summer in Poland, she tried to find a place in the scientific community, but was denied. Pierre's letters followed her, arguing her future would be brighter with him. She returned to Paris and married Pierre Curie. Their wedding was a simple civil ceremony. Instead of a honeymoon, they bought 2 bicycles and cycled through the French countryside. This was the beginning of a famous partnership based on love, a shared intellectual journey, and mutual respect. In 1896, the scientific world was absolutely buzzing with news of a strange discovery. The German physicist Wilhelm Röntgen had accidentally discovered X-rays, mysterious rays that could pass through solid objects. This discovery, as you can imagine, fascinated scientists all across Europe. Shortly after, the French physicist Henri Becquerel took the next step. While investigating fluorescent materials, he found that uranium salts spontaneously emitted a similar kind of penetrating ray, even without any exposure to sunlight. These so-called Becquerel rays were, honestly, a deep puzzle. They seemed to appear from nowhere, challenging the long-held belief that energy could not be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. Marie Curie, now looking for a topic for her doctoral thesis, was captivated by these mysterious uranium rays. While many prominent physicists were focused on the more sensational X-rays, Marie chose to investigate Becquerel's discovery. It was a path less traveled, a field that was completely new and widely ignored. She saw really an opportunity to break new ground. It was a bold and insightful choice, typical of her scientific intuition. She decided to make a systematic study of these rays, to find out if other substances besides uranium might also emit them. This decision marked the beginning of her journey into the world of radioactivity. To conduct her research, she needed a precise way to measure the faint electrical currents generated by the rays as they passed through the air. Fortunately, she had the perfect tool at her disposal. 15 years earlier, her husband Pierre and his brother had invented a highly sensitive electrometer. It was an instrument capable of measuring extremely low electrical charges with great accuracy. Using this device, Marie began a methodical and exhaustive investigation. She tested every known element she could get her hands on, looking for any sign of the mysterious energy. Her approach was systematic, patient, and incredibly thorough. Her initial experiments quickly confirmed Becquerel's findings about uranium, but then she made a crucial discovery. She found that the element thorium also emitted the same kind of rays. This was a vital piece of the puzzle. It suggested that this property was not unique to uranium. It was something more fundamental, an intrinsic property of certain types of atoms. It was Marie Curie who coined the term radioactivity to describe this spontaneous emission of rays. Her next step would be even more revolutionary. She began to test natural ores, and she noticed something that just didn't add up. a discovery that would point towards the existence of something entirely new. Marie Curie systematically measured rays from compounds using Pierre's electrometer. Testing natural ores, she found pitchblende, a uranium source, was far more radioactive than pure uranium. This astonishing result led to a bold hypothesis. Pitchblende contained another, incredibly radioactive substance. Intrigued, Pierre joined Marie, embarking on a grueling quest to isolate this mysterious element from tons of rock, unaware of the dangers it held. The Curies faced a monumental challenge, processing huge amounts of pitchblende. Their laboratory was far too small. The solution was a disused shed on the Rue Lhomond. It was little more than a shack with a leaky roof, freezing in winter and hot in summer. This humble shed would become one of the most famous laboratories in the history of science. It was here that Marie and Pierre Curie would conduct their world-changing research. The work was physically punishing and mentally exhausting. Marie spent her days stirring huge cauldrons of boiling pitchblende. Despite the harsh conditions, the Curies were driven by a shared excitement. Their shared sacrifice was forging a new chapter in our understanding of the universe. Isolating the elements was a marathon. It took months of repetitive work, using chemical techniques to separate elements. Marie Curie dissolved pitchblende in acid, then precipitated out different compounds. She used an electrometer to test the radioactivity of each fraction, guiding her to the new element. Marie processed pitchblende in 20 kilograms batches, crushing, dissolving, and crystallizing the material repeatedly. In July 1898, they had their first breakthrough, isolating a substance 300 times more radioactive than uranium. Marie named this element polonium, in honor of her homeland, Poland. Realizing the remaining material was still intensely radioactive, they knew there was another element to find. The hunt for the second element was even more challenging. The only way to isolate it was through fractional crystallization. She had to repeat this crystallization thousands of times to gradually enrich the concentration. As the substance became more concentrated, it began to glow in the dark with a faint, ethereal blue-green light. Finally, in December of 1898, they announced their second discovery. They named this new element radium because of its incredible power to emit energy. To convince the world, the Curies needed to isolate pure metallic radium. From 1 ton of pitchblende, she managed to isolate just 1/10 of a gram of pure radium chloride. She had proven its existence. The discovery of polonium and radium made the Curies famous. In 1903, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to Henri Becquerel, Pierre and Marie Curie for their joint research on radiation. Fame brought new pressures, disrupting their research. They chose to share their methods freely, refusing to profit from their discovery for the good of humanity. This intense work took a heavy toll on their health. The elements that brought them fame were slowly poisoning them. The ultimate price of their discovery was tragically high. Pierre died in an accident in 1906, possibly weakened by radiation. Marie continued their work, driven by her commitment to science. On April 19, 1906, tragedy shattered Marie Curie's world. Pierre, her husband and scientific partner, was gone. He slipped and fell under a horse-drawn carriage. Marie was left a widow with 2 young daughters. The partnership that had redefined science had been violently torn apart. The grief that engulfed Marie was profound. Many assumed her scientific career was over, but Marie refused a pension. She was a scientist, and their work was her identity, her purpose. Marie made a choice to step into the void Pierre had left behind. She had to prove her scientific genius was her own. After Pierre's death, the Sorbonne sought to fill his professorship. In an unprecedented move, they offered the position to Marie Curie, recognizing her immense contributions. In 1906, she became the first woman to hold a professorship at the Sorbonne. Her first lecture was a major event, the hall packed with students, journalists, and more. Marie began her lecture where Pierre had left off, a powerful statement that the work continues. She established the Institut du Radium, a global center for chemistry and physics, proving a woman could excel in academic authority. Just as Marie was cementing her professional standing, her personal life was thrown into turmoil by a vicious public scandal. After years of widowhood and intense focus on her work, she had grown close to a fellow physicist, a brilliant man named Paul Langevin. He was a former student of Pierre's, a married man who was unhappily estranged from his wife. Their relationship was one of intellectual companionship that blossomed into a private romantic affair. They shared a deep connection, finding solace and understanding in each other's company. For Marie, it was a reawakening of personal happiness after years of lonely grief and sacrifice. However, their private correspondence fell into the hands of Langevin's wife, who, feeling scorned, leaked the letters to the press. The result was a firestorm of public outrage. The French newspapers, particularly the xenophobic and misogynistic tabloid press, launched a brutal and relentless attack on Marie Curie. They portrayed her not as a world-renowned scientist, but as a foreign homewrecker, a Polish Jew, though she was an atheist raised Catholic, who had come to France to destroy a good French family. The attacks were deeply personal, playing on prejudice against foreigners and professional women. Her scientific achievements were forgotten, eclipsed by sensationalist headlines. The scandal reached a fever pitch just as Marie was about to receive her second Nobel Prize in 1911. The backlash was so severe that she was hounded by angry mobs outside her home. She was vilified and ostracized by the very public that had once celebrated her. The personal cost was immense. She was a private person, and this public dissection of her life was excruciating. It was a brutal reminder of the double standards faced by women. Male scientists, including Paul Langevin and even Albert Einstein, had complex personal lives, but they were rarely subjected to the same level of public condemnation. Marie was judged not on her work, but on her personal conduct, through the lens of vicious prejudice. This affair was a profound professional and personal sacrifice. It threatened to derail her career and tarnish her reputation permanently. The stress took a severe toll on her health, leading to a serious bout of depression and kidney illness that required surgery and a long period of recovery. She was forced to live in hiding for a time under a different name to escape the press. It was a cruel and unjust punishment for a woman who had already given so much to science and to France. The experience left deep scars, reinforcing her natural reserve and her distrust of the public eye. Amidst scandal, Marie Curie received incredible news. The Nobel Committee awarded her the 1911 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, this time as the sole recipient. It recognized her discovery of radium and polonium, an unprecedented honor. She was the first to win 2 Nobel Prizes. Despite pressure to decline amidst scandal, Curie insisted her scientific work was separate from her private life. She traveled to Stockholm and accepted her prize, defending her legacy and striking a blow for women in science. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Marie Curie's work took another dramatic turn. She knew that her scientific knowledge could save lives on the battlefield. Wounded soldiers were dying from treatable injuries because surgeons were operating blind, unable to locate bullets and shrapnel inside the body. X-rays could solve this problem, but the machines were large, delicate, and confined to city hospitals, far from the front lines. Marie saw a solution. She put her fundamental research on hold and dedicated herself entirely to the war effort. Her sacrifice was no longer for pure science, but for immediate humanitarian aid. Her idea was to create mobile radiography units. She procured vehicles from cars to trucks and worked with manufacturers to equip them with X-ray machines and dynamos. These mobile X-ray stations became known as Petite Curies, or Little Curies. She did not just design them. She learned to drive, studied anatomy and automotive mechanics, and trained other women to operate the equipment. She sourced funding from wealthy patrons and used her own Nobel Prize money to support the project. She became a director, a mechanic, a fundraiser, and a trainer, all rolled into one. Marie, along with her then teenage daughter Irene, drove these Little Curies to the front lines herself. It was dangerous work. They were close to the fighting, working in difficult and often unsanitary conditions in field hospitals. Marie personally trained some 150 women as X-ray operators, creating a new role for women in the war effort. She and her team of radiological assistants were responsible for getting X-ray technology to where it was needed most. They traveled from battle to battle, helping surgeons locate fragments and perform more precise, life-saving operations. Her hands, once used for delicate chemical separations, were now used to position wounded soldiers under the X-ray beam. It is estimated that over 1 million wounded soldiers were treated with the help of her X-ray units. This was a direct and massive impact of her scientific work, applied in the most practical and compassionate way imaginable. She was not just a theoretical scientist locked in a laboratory. She was a hands-on humanitarian who was willing to risk her own safety to alleviate suffering. This period of her life is a powerful testament to her character. The sacrifice was immense. She put her own research on hold for 4 years and exposed herself to yet more intense doses of radiation. But in doing so, she cemented her legacy not just as a great scientist, but as a great humanitarian. Marie Curie passed away in 1934 from a lifetime of radiation exposure from the very element she discovered. The radium's mysterious glow had once captivated her. Her notebooks are still so radioactive today that they are stored in lead-lined boxes. The metaphorical glow of her legacy shines even brighter, illuminating the path for scientists. The Curie's selfless dedication is a reminder of what science, at its very best, can and should be. She proved that a brilliant mind has no gender, helping to light the way for women in STEM. It's almost impossible to imagine our modern world without Marie Curie's discoveries. Her work is woven into the fabric of our 21st century reality. The most direct application is in medicine. Radium became the foundation for radiotherapy, a cornerstone of modern cancer treatment. The mobile X-ray units, the Petite Curies, were the ancestors of today's medical imaging technologies. The use of radiological techniques to see inside the human body is a direct descendant of her efforts. Her work also laid the foundation for the nuclear age. She opened the door to a new understanding of physics. The study of radioactivity is crucial for carbon dating in archaeology and food preservation. Her science is quietly at work all around us. Her discovery that atoms could decay was a revolutionary concept. She didn't just add to science, she forced science to rebuild itself. Beyond the elements and equations, Marie Curie's story resonates because it's profoundly human. She was a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother who experienced deep love and devastating loss. She faced prejudice, battled poverty, and endured public humiliation. Her partnership with Pierre Curie is one of the greatest love stories in the history of science. Her life also teaches us about the nature of sacrifice, and her story is a powerful lesson in resilience. That's the human element that makes her a true inspiration. Marie Curie's life story has become a modern myth, a source of endless inspiration for people all over the world. For young scientists, especially women, she is the ultimate role model. She's proof that you can come from hardship and still reach the pinnacle of your field. Her story says that your gender, nationality, and financial situation don't have to be barriers to your ambition. What truly matters is the fire in your mind and the strength of your character. She shows that dedication, hard work, and a relentless passion can overcome almost any obstacle. She also inspires us to be bold in our thinking. Ultimately, Marie Curie inspires us to believe in the power of knowledge. She saw science not just as a career, but as a noble calling. She believed that scientific discovery held the key to improving the human condition. So, what is the final word on Marie Curie? How do we sum up a life of such immense significance? She's more than just a name in a textbook, more than a grainy black and white photograph. She was a force of nature, a person whose intellect and determination reshaped our world. She was the pioneer who ventured into the radioactive unknown, charting a new territory of science that was both wondrous and perilous. She gave us 2 new elements, a new field of physics and new ways to heal the sick. Her work stands as a pillar of modern science, a foundation upon which much of our current technology is built. She was also a trailblazer who irrevocably changed the role of women in science and society. By reaching the highest echelons of the scientific world, a world that did everything it could to exclude her, she created a new reality. She proved that intellectual greatness is not a male prerogative. Her 2 Nobel Prizes, her professorship at the Sorbonne, and her leadership of the Radium Institute were not just personal triumphs. They were victories for women everywhere. She didn't set out to be a feminist icon, but by simply pursuing her passion with unwavering excellence, she became one of the most powerful ones in history. Her life story is a powerful reminder that science is a human endeavor. It's not a cold, sterile process of pure logic. It's a story of passion, curiosity, sacrifice, and resilience. Marie Curie's life was filled with all of these things. She labored and she loved. She discovered and she suffered. She faced down her critics and she tended to the wounded. The story of her life and work is a compelling drama that shows us the immense personal cost that can be required to achieve true greatness and to push humanity forward. Her legacy is not just in what she discovered, but in the way she lived her life. In the end, Marie Curie is more than a scientist. She is an idea. She represents the belief that one person, armed with a brilliant mind and an unbreakable spirit, can change the world. She reminds us that the path to discovery is often long and difficult, paved with sacrifice and setbacks. But she also shows us that it is a path worth taking. Her glow, the glow of radium and the glow of her indomitable spirit, continues to shine, inspiring us to be more curious, more courageous, and more dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge for the good of all. Her name is history. Her legacy is forever.